Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Excellent. Today, we're diving into a topic that might sound a little futuristic.
Oh, like flying cars, futuristic.
Haha, not quite. But it does involve some pretty mind-bending technology.
Right.
We're talking about post-quantum cryptography, or PQC for short.
Ah, yes, PQC, the future of cybersecurity in a world of quantum computers.
Exactly. And it's a topic that's becoming increasingly important, especially with the U.S. government setting that 2035 deadline for federal agencies to transition to PQC.
Yeah, that deadline really underscores the urgency of the situation, doesn't it? I mean, we're essentially talking about preparing for a future where our current methods of protecting data could be rendered completely useless.
It sounds pretty dramatic when you put it like that. But seriously, for those of us who aren't, quantum physicists or cybersecurity experts, what exactly is post-quantum cryptography and why should we even care?
Well, think about it this way. Right now, the way we secure most of our digital information, whether it's online banking, shopping, or even confidential communications, relies on something called encryption.
Right, encryption, basically scrambling data so that only authorized parties can access it.
Exactly. And a cornerstone of this encryption is something called RSA encryption. It's been the gold standard for decades. Basically, it uses really complex math involving the product of two large prime numbers to create a public key and a private key.
So like a digital padlock, anyone can use the public key to lock the information, but only the person with the private key can unlock it.
You got it. And the security of this whole system hinges on the fact that it's incredibly difficult, almost impossible, for traditional computers to figure out the private key just by knowing the public key.
Okay, that makes sense. But where do quantum computers come into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question. Quantum computers are a completely different breed. They operate on the principles of quantum mechanics, which allows them to perform calculations at speeds that dwarf even the most powerful supercomputers we have today.
I've heard they can solve problems in minutes that would take classical computers thousands of years.
Exactly, and that's the problem. One of the things they could potentially do is crack the mathematical foundation of RSA encryption. And if that happens, all our current security measures become, well, pretty much useless.
So all our online data, everything, could be up for grabs. That's kind of terrifying.
It's definitely a cause for concern. But the good news is that researchers around the world are working hard to develop new encryption methods that can resist the power of quantum computers. That's where post-quantum cryptography, PQC, comes in.
So PQC is essentially a new set of encryption tools designed to be quantum-proof.
Precisely. It's like building a new, even more secure digital padlock that even a quantum computer can't pick. And there are several promising approaches being explored.
Like what? Could you give us some examples?
Sure. One approach is called lattice-based cryptography. It uses complex mathematical structures called lattices to create codes that are believed to be very difficult even for quantum computers to break.
Lattices. Sounds complicated.
It is, but very effective. There's also code-based cryptography, which uses error-correcting codes to protect data. It's a bit like hiding a needle in a haystack, but on a much more complex level.
Interesting. So it sounds like there's a lot of brain power being put into developing these quantum-resistant solutions. Are there any companies leading the charge?
Absolutely. Companies like Sectigo, Keyfactor, and Sandbox AQ are all making significant strides in PQC. They're developing new algorithms, testing solutions, and working to make PQC accessible to organizations of all sizes.
Can you tell us more about any specific solutions that have caught your eye?
Well, Sectigo, for instance, has created a platform called Sectigo PQC Labs. It basically offers a secure environment for organizations to test and experiment with different PQC algorithms and see how they work with their existing systems.
So it's like a sandbox where companies can play around with PQC without any risk.
Exactly. It's crucial because we need to ensure that PQC solutions are compatible with our current infrastructure and that there aren't any unforeseen vulnerabilities before we roll them out on a large scale.
Makes sense. And I understand that the U.S. government is also taking this threat seriously, right?
Oh, absolutely. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, has been at the forefront of PQC development and standardization. They've been running a competition to identify the most promising PQC algorithms. And as you mentioned earlier, they've set that 2035 deadline for all federal systems to migrate to PQC.
So the clock is ticking. And I imagine this transition to PQC won't be a walk in the park, right? There must be some challenges involved.
Yeah, you're right. It's a massive undertaking. We're talking about updating everything from online banking systems and e-commerce platforms to critical infrastructure and military communications. One of the biggest hurdles will be ensuring that all these different PQC solutions can seamlessly integrate with existing systems and that there are no compatibility issues.
And not to mention the cost and complexity of training people on these new technologies.
Exactly. There's definitely a learning curve involved for developers and security professionals. It's a whole new way of thinking about encryption. But I'm confident that with collaboration and continued research, we can overcome these challenges and successfully transition to a post-quantum world.
It definitely sounds like we need to start taking this threat seriously and preparing now.
Absolutely. The potential threat posed by quantum computers to our current encryption is very real, and it's not something we can afford to ignore.
And there are some pretty dire warnings out there about the potential consequences. I read a quote from Kevin Weiss, the CEO of Sectigo, where he said, "Quantum threats represent a fundamental and existential risk to any organization wishing to safeguard valuable digital assets."
Wow, that's a powerful statement. And it really drives home the point that this isn't just some theoretical problem for the future. It's something we need to be addressing right now.
So to bring it back to our listeners, what's the key takeaway here? Why should people be paying attention to this whole PQC thing?
Well, I think the main point is that the way we protect our data is about to undergo a radical transformation. The age of quantum computing is coming, and with it comes a whole new set of challenges and opportunities. It's crucial to understand the potential threats and the solutions being developed to address them.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of PQC, but it definitely raises some important questions.
For sure. It makes you wonder what other unforeseen consequences might arise as we enter this new era of quantum computing. How will PQC impact different industries and aspects of our lives?
Great questions to ponder. And for anyone who's interested in learning more about this, I highly recommend checking out NIST's website and Sectigo's blog. They're both excellent resources for staying up to date on all things PQC.
Definitely worth a read. Lots of great information out there.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. As always, thanks for tuning in, and keep those brains buzzing. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you then.